everybody. This is Bull Run Crypto, and today we're going to talk about the Bitcoin supply shortage on exchanges. So, what you need to know about this, we're going to go into great details. So, let's go ahead and get into this. So, what we're talking about is supply shock. If we go on to ChatGPT and we get really clear information, very refined, this is probably the best cliff notes you're going to find on the internet using ChatGPT, asking questions like this technically. But I'm going to go through each one of these, and give you ideas and concepts of how this works in the real world. So, causes of the Bitcoin supply shock, we've seen it during the halving events, right? So, how many Bitcoins can be created all of a sudden cuts in half, and it becomes more expensive to mine one full Bitcoin. And that's what ultimately leads to a price surge. Okay, so we all know about the halving events. But then there's the increased accumulation. So, increased accumulation is when we hear that the United States is planning on adding a Bitcoin reserve. BlackRock is buying. MicroStrategy is buying. In your mind, don't you think, like, well, there's only 21 million Bitcoins ever to be created. There's about 19 million in circulation right now. At what point do they start running out of Bitcoins? Like, meaning, are all the Bitcoins owned? What happens when the Bitcoins are owned? That means we're going to have to find sellers to buy all this Bitcoin. And this is that supply shock we're talking about. So what happens is exchanges run low on Bitcoin right here, right? So a supply shock may occur when Bitcoin reserves on exchanges decline significantly. Growing demand, okay? You're not just going to have retail investors trying to go out and buy. That's me and you, or your grandpa or your dad. You're going to actually have your grandma also trying to buy, your auntie asking you what's up. But then there's going to be BlackRock or Microsoft, or who knows, the state of Arizona in some of these cases. And then you also have to take into consideration how many of those Bitcoins out of the 19 million are already lost forever. So that's what we're talking about. And then what ends up happening because of the scarcity is Bitcoin will have a price increase. And that's that God candle that we're talking about. And let me go in here and show you a couple things that we saw on Twitter here. So, number one is the CEO of BlackRock, a multi-trillion-dollar company, believes Bitcoin could reach as high as $700,000 sometime in the near future. That's Larry Fink. Okay, but we've got even more bullish cases than this. But you can see Vivek here. He tweeted, "State of Arizona Strategic Reserve, Bitcoin Reserve passes out of the committee." So I've heard other states like Texas are going to buy, but Arizona already has this, on its way. And then he gives an example right here with SAB 122. This is the God candle kind of scenario we're talking about. Some people would say, what happens when Saudi Arabia buys, when Qatar buys, whenever the United States buys? I mean, is that going to create the God candle? That's where you wake up one day and everyone is just aping into Bitcoin, and you just see the price just shoot up. I mean, how high can it go? We don't know. But I mean, you factor in a supply shock. I mean, if everyone's trying to buy Bitcoin for a strategic reserve, how many are already owned at the time when people or countries or companies are all trying to jump into Bitcoin at the same time? This is what's going to create this supply shock that creates the God candle that has been talked about for a while now. And you can see right here, even Michael Saylor at one point in time has said he thinks Bitcoin is going to 13 million. Okay, he said that on CNBC. He just recently bought some crypto, or some Bitcoin. He's always bought Bitcoin, right? So if we look at the price here, if it goes to $13 million per coin, wow. Okay, that's going to be like, okay, I mean, even if it goes to a million, that's darn near 10x. So if it goes to 13 million, that's over like 100x from here. All right. So that puts things into perspective as to how early you could be. Do you really think it could go to 13 million? Well, I mean, if you look at MicroStrategy's position on that, but really, once these countries start getting into it, Saudi Arabia, Qatar, the United States, China, I mean, China's not just going to stand by and let it happen without buying, right? They already own, I think they're the second biggest holder. Even if you take a look and see who's the biggest holder of Bitcoin, I mean, you can ask Google or you can ask ChatGPT, who holds the most Bitcoin, right? This is how we do it, right? We just ask the question and see what the answer comes up with. The largest holder of Bitcoin can be divided in several categories, including exchanges. So Satoshi Nakamoto right here, he owns 1 million Bitcoin. That's 1 million just right off the table. At And this came out when it said $27,000 per Bitcoin. So that's one of the problems with ChatGPT is a little bit older information, but you could see publicly traded companies like MicroStrategy by Michael Saylor. Uh, you could see Tesla; they're one of the biggest holders. Block. I mean, there should be others on here, but you can see the U.S. government owns 200,000 Bitcoin. This is a little bit old information, so we'd probably need to ask Google for a more up-to-date version of it. But if we go right here, you can see on Forbes, they were talking about the God candle suddenly sends Bitcoin to all-time high prices. Trump stuns crypto. That was written, what, a week and a half ago? And they're calling that a God candle. They haven't seen nothing yet. Whoever wrote that article has not seen anything yet as to what's possible. But let's see, who is the largest holder of Bitcoin? Let's see if we get a different answer than what ChatGPT. So we still got Satoshi Nakamoto. He's got 1.1 million. The Winklevoss twins have 70,000. Tim Draper, 29,000. Tim Draper. Michael Saylor personally owns 17,000. CZ from Binance. Let's see if we can get a little bit more of a dialed in kind of look at this stuff here, because what we really need, let's see when this article came out. This was January 1, 2025. So let's see here. So Satoshi is definitely the largest holder. The individuals, the Winklevoss twins, they bought when they sold Facebook, or we're done with Facebook. But MicroStrategy has 446,000. They've recently bought more. So that's a huge amount, right? Mara, BTC. Where is BlackRock on here? I should have BlackRock some here. Oh, 552,000 for BlackRock. Grayscale has 206,000. So I mean, if you're doing the math here, you can see a lot of the Bitcoins are bought up. So I mean, just between Satoshi, BlackRock, and MicroStrategy, that alone is about 2 million, right? That's 2 million right off the table. And then if you ask how many, let's ask ChatGPT, how many Bitcoin are lost forever? So what we're doing is we're really taking a look at scarcity here. So we want to know what the scarcity is. And you can see the exact number of Bitcoin is difficult to determine, but the estimates of 3 to 4 million Bitcoin, approximately 15 to 20% of the total supply. Okay, so you take into consideration Satoshi, MicroStrategy, BlackRock, and the 3 to 4 million. So we're looking at anywhere between 5 to 6 million Bitcoin right there, just off the table. And then if you look at how many Bitcoin are currently in circulating supply, it's about 19.8, almost 20 million. Okay, so 6 million are already just off the table. Just take those chips off the table. So that leaves us with what? Around 14 million coins left to be bought up. But that's not even taking into consideration all the other people and the governments that already own, like China, the United States, government, the Winklevoss twins, Grayscale. I mean, we didn't even talk about the smaller guys, but they're in there. And there's millions more there. So, I mean, we're talking about how much Bitcoin is really available to buy. And that's where the exchanges come in. And we have to wonder, do the exchanges really have that much on there? And right here, Bitcoin exchange reserves have hit their lowest levels in years, with significant withdrawals from major cryptocurrency exchanges like Binance and Coinbase. Over 171,000 have been moved off these platforms since the United States election in November 2024, signaling an investor behavior shift. So exchanges, once you start hearing that exchanges are running low on Bitcoin, that's the supply shock, like God candle inbound. brace for launch, right? That's what's basically going to happen. So hopefully you guys got some insight out of this that was useful. If you did, smash up the likes, subscribe to Bull Run Crypto, and we will see you on the next one.